Good afternoon from New York. We're coming on the air with breaking news, very sad news to tell the sports world. The LA Times is reporting that retired Los Angeles Lakers basketball star Kobe Bryant has been killed in a helicopter crash. It happened.
China's northern neighbour, Mongolia, has closed its border with the country to cars and pedestrians in a bid to contain the coronavirus. More than 80 people have died since the outbreak started, and there are estimates that nearly 6,000 people have been infected.
Many schools around the world, as you know, have shut down, some for extended periods of time, as this virus spreads.
Multiple wildfires exploding in Southern California. Hurricane-force winds driving these flames in Orange County as 150,000 residents are warned to evacuate.
good to be with you guys tonight. Some of you all may know this song. It's been around for a while, and I love just the part of worship, just a visual representation of just kind of us giving breath back to Christ. And that's all this song is speaking about, and we're giving back the breath to Jesus, because that's why we worship tonight. So if that's new to you tonight, we welcome you. If you're here, we're just so glad that we can worship together. So we're going to give our breath back to Christ tonight. And I'm excited for what Caleb and Monte have planned for tonight. I'm excited that there's going to be change in your life tonight. We're praying for that big time tonight. We're praying that God's going to step in and use this event to change your life, to just speak encouragement and speak words to you guys. So I want to invite you in, just keep singing. Let's keep singing to Jesus tonight.
You Is the epitome of embracing the unknown. We come here tonight, we don't know what's going to happen, we don't know what God's going to do, but I'm expecting that God's going to move. God, we just ask you for your spirit to fall, to allow us to get out of the way, just for you to move in this space. Thank you, play the chorus one more time. Yeah.
So we pour out our praise, we pour out our praise into your breath in our lungs. So we pour out our praise, we pour out our praise into your breath in our lungs. So we pour out our praise to you only. It's your breath in our lungs. So we pour out our praise, we pour out our praise into your breath in our lungs. So we pour out our praise to you only.
So tonight we are going to be speaking about what it means to embrace the unknown. And I want to take a recap to talk to you a minute about what I was doing at the beginning of 2020. You see, there was a lot of us from the Red Tree Young Adults group, and we took a trip, 8.5, 9 hours down to Atlanta, Georgia, and we were at this big stadium that the Atlanta Falcons play in, and by golly, it was amazing because there was so much more fun stuff, better stuff going on. If you've ever seen in the NFL, the Atlanta Falcons are not very good this year, so it's great. Like, it was amazing. It was great. There's a lot of good stuff happening. And we were there, and we were worshiping Jesus with a church called Passion City Church, which is in Atlanta. And we were there, and we all had our 65,000 people, hands lifted high, sort of like we did tonight, praising Jesus. Then I came home, and I was on an all-time high. I had this saying, it was hashtag 2020, hashtag 2020 vision, right? It made sense, right? I saw the commercials on TV, and they're just like, hashtag 2020 vision. I say hashtag because I'm old and I'm not young like you guys, but that's why I say hashtag, right? That's how that works. So we did that. I came home, I was at an all-time high, a high for Jesus, a high for what's going to happen, expected for 2020. And then, all of a sudden, stuff started happening, right? Things are happening, so I'm lifting my hands, and I'm raising up, and I'm at an all-time high, and then all of a sudden it hits me hard. We lost, as you saw tonight, one of the best basketball players probably to ever play the sport, Kobe Bryant. There were wildfires that were ravaging through Australia and through California. People started to get sick. They started shutting down events that we had planned to go to. Started shutting down businesses. Maybe your business or your parents' business got shut down and was not able to do what they needed to do. And we were sent home from work to start working from home or doing school from home. And it was way different. You ready? So here's the deal, what happened though. In 2020, as my hands were lifted high, it hit me. It hit me hard, right? And it's hard to praise, it's really hard to praise, when you can't put your hands up. When you have no idea what will happen. When your hands are behind your back. Ow. It was hard when 2020 hit us to actually carry on and to be positive and to keep doing what we were doing. I mean, we ran out of toilet paper in my house at the wrong time. At the very wrong time. I don't know about you guys, but there was rationing. And I have kids, and they don't like to ration, so I had to extra ration. That's TMI, I know. Other things happened. The NCAA tournament was canceled, my favorite time of the year. The NBA was canceled. We were watching the basketball game, and it got canceled. Masks started being required. They're good, right? Yeah, but they're tough. They're tough. Stores running out of TP. All of that was happening. But you see, that's the thing is life does that to us sometimes. We started off 2020 hopeful, with a vision, with stuff ready to go, but it didn't happen like we had planned it to. Not at all, right? So what happened in your life during 2020? Was it all roses and butterflies and happiness all over the place?
I went to Hawaii.
I went to Hawaii, yeah, that's great, right? And I wish, afterwards I need to talk to you. Or maybe I don't. Maybe 2020 was supposed to happen the way that it did. Man, these things hurt. Man, maybe it happened the way that it did because it was supposed to be that way. So the question is, when we go into 2021, and then 2020 seems like it sort of bled over into 2020 has bled over into 2021, the first, 9 days here. And so we have to ask ourselves, are we going to just sit back and not be positive? Are we going to sit back and not be courageous and fearless? But instead, are we going to just do maybe like what we did in 2020? Or do we want to step out and do we want to live a life on purpose, courageous, that is contagious for the people around us? Do we want to, like we like to say tonight, embrace the unknown? So tonight we're going to read a story. I don't know how to do this. See, you never know what's going to happen whenever life is bad, right? So tonight we're going to start off, we're going to read a passage out of Acts. We're going to read a passage out of Acts 16, and it's going to be verses 16 through 30. And so I'm going to try and read it here with you guys. So the verse is going to be on the screen as well. Once, when we were going to the place of prayer, we were met by a female slave who had a spirit, by which she predicted the future. She earned a great deal of money for her owners by fortune-telling. She followed Paul and the rest of us, shouting, "These men are servants of the Most High God, who are telling you the way to be saved." She kept us up for many days. Finally, Paul became so annoyed that he turned around and said to the spirit, "In the name of Jesus Christ, I command you to come out of her." At that moment, the spirit left her. When her owners realized that their hope of making money was gone, they seized Paul and Silas and dragged them into the marketplace to face the authorities. They brought them before the magistrates and said, "These men are Jews and are throwing our city into an uproar by advocating customs unlawful for us Romans to accept or practice." The crowd joined in the attack against Paul and Silas, and the magistrates ordered them to be stripped and beaten with rods. After they had been severely flogged, they were thrown into prison, and the jailer was commanded to guard them carefully. When he received these orders, he put them in the inner cell and fastened their feet in the stocks. About midnight, Paul and Silas were praying and singing hymns to God. and the other prisoners were listening to them. Suddenly, there was such a violent earthquake that the foundations of the prison were shaken, and at once the prison doors flew open, and everyone's chains came loose. The jailer woke up, and when he saw the prison doors open, he drew a sword and was about to kill himself because he thought the prisoners had escaped. But Paul shouted, "Don't harm yourself. We are all here." The jailer called for lights, rushed in, and fell trembling before Paul and Silas. He then brought them out and asked, "Sirs, what must I do to be saved?" So here we see Paul and Silas and many of the disciples are in Rome, and they're carrying on the mission of Jesus and talking about the hope and the greatness that Jesus has. And unbeknownst to them, they're doing their job, they're doing what they're supposed to, and by golly, they took a demon out of a woman. And for what? For what? To be thrown into prison? They were doing nothing wrong. Not a single thing wrong in their minds. Not anything that was hurting a single person. Sort of like we were doing in 2020, right? In January and February, were we hurting people? Were we out, causing a ruckus? No, we were probably minding our own business, right? We were going our day-to-day, going to school, going to work, doing exactly what we were supposed to do. But then what happened? It hit us, right? What happened? Why did it happen? Well, to be honest, the better question is, it did happen, how did you handle it? You see, some of us, it may have caused confusion, stress and anxiety. Yeah, I was there. Anger? Or maybe you handled it gracefully with patience and grace, thoughtfulness and courage. Paul and Silas are great examples of what we should do to embrace the unknown. I'm going to give us a few points here that are going to go over what it really means to embrace the unknown in times of uncertainty, in times of stress. I think that Paul and Silas, again, are great examples of that. And so let's look at some of the things we can learn from these verses. The first thing we do when we embrace the unknown is we realize that we have no control. I'm married and I have 4 kids, and tonight we may have another one. My wife is sitting over here, so I told her she had to keep the baby in for a few more days, just stay there, right? But the thing is I like to think that I have control over my family. I'd like to think that I have control over the situations and the things that they do. But I can promise you, having a 14-year-old, I have no control over his attitude. Not a single bit. Maybe you guys were teenagers once before, but man, I love him to death. By golly, he is not super nice to me. And it happens. And so what happens is when we feel like that we have control, so like Paul and Silas, they had no control. They were going to treat and heal a possessed guy. They did what they thought was right? But because they messed with the owner's income, they were thrown into jail. Man. And when we think that we have control, everything goes great, right? Everything seems like it's going amazing until we don't. Which brings us really to the next point. Because we have no control, what it does is it humbles us. So point 1, we have no control over our situation. Point 2, when you have no control, it humbles you. Because when we feel like we're in control, we sort of feel like we have it all together. Like we don't need anybody's help. Like we can do whatever, whenever, however we want. Like we own the situation. Yeah, right. Like we can do it on our own. This is great until you reach a point when you can't. And then when you're at that point when you can't explain it, when you don't know what's happening, then what? Then what do? Try and do it yourself. You Google it. Go on YouTube. Yeah, right? But maybe the answer's not there. Maybe it's not. So by realizing we don't have control and by being humble, see, my phone's going to fall. By realizing we have no control, like I don't have control over my papers here. And by being humble, we have to know that, it's good. There we go. We don't have control. We're being humble. But Paul says, I have to move this one. I'm sorry. Those notes are going to be important in a minute. Like Paul says in Ephesians 4:2, be completely humble and gentle. Be patient, bearing with one another in love. This world needs more gentleness, more patience, more love, right? Just this morning, my wife and I were grabbing coffee before we were getting ready for this event. We had a lot to get done. There's a lot that happens to do something like this, and so we had a lot going on, and we were sort of crunched for time. And what's the thing that happens? They make one of our drinks wrong, right? We just wait in a long line at Starbucks, and they make a drink wrong. So we ask them, hey, we think this drink is wrong. They're like, okay, we'll fix it. And they hand us the next drink, and it's wrong. And I was just like, you know what? I could really, really be non-patient here. But I decided that I don't just like to preach, I like to also try and live out what I'm talking about. And so I decided that I was going to be patient. And we started carrying on a conversation with them and talk about how great they were doing and some of the things that they were experimenting with. And so it was really a great opportunity for me to live out being patient, being gentle, being humble in that situation. So number one, we realize we have no control. Number two, it creates a humbleness within. And number three, it creates fearlessness. That's good, right? Because 2020 was a year of a lot of people are fearful. Fearful of getting the virus, fearful of dying, fearful of their loved ones, losing your job, spending a lot of time with your spouse or your family and wanting to move away or out. I mean, there was a lot to be fearful for in 2020. But if you embrace the unknown, if you're ready to hit it head on, then you're not going to be fearful. So sometimes we are faced with the unknown. We start to think about what could happen or what could go wrong. Our minds go to the worst. I can attest for that. My mind typically goes right for the worst. We start to build up fear for what is next, and it stops us in our tracks. So you can't move forward if you're fearful. God does not want that for us. 2 Timothy 1:7, it's here on my arm. My favorite, my life verse. It said, for God does not give us a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. Because you see, the opposite of fear is assurance, calmness, cheer, confidence, encouragement, faith, happiness, joy, trust, love, bravery, heroism. The last one's my favorite. I remember being a kid and wanting to be a hero, right? Today we were at a soccer game and this kid's wearing a Spider-Man outfit, and I said, my son's team doesn't have a chance. They got Spider-Man on their team. It was crazy. How can you win against Spider-Man? It's not fair. You see, God does not want us to be fearful. How am I going to do this without falling down? Actually, I'm going to do this. Because you never know what's going to happen, but we just have to do what we can. But you see, I can't see your faces. But you see, we can't control what's going to happen to us, right? I'm glad I fell up right side up. But what we can control is how we react to it. We can control what we do next. We can control the situation, no. But we can control our attitude. I need my glasses too. So what things happened to you in 2020? How did you react? Were you calm? Were you courageous? Were you fearless? Or maybe not. Maybe you didn't handle it the right way. Maybe you didn't embrace the unknown, and that's okay. Because there was a lot of time when I was watching social media and watching the news and all that stuff, and I can promise you, I was not embracing the unknown. I definitely was not where I needed to be. Paul and Silas were thrown into jail for what seemed like no reason at all. No reason. They just helped a gal become unpossessed. No reason. Yeah, they could have chosen to just throw up arms and act crazy and shout and scream and call names. Maybe say a couple bad words. I won't say them on camera. That's okay, I'll be good tonight. But what they did is they praised. They praised God. They praised the one who they knew was in control. And miraculous things happened. Would we have blamed them if they would have gotten mad, yelled at the jailers? Would we have blamed them at all? No, I wouldn't have. It would have made sense. It would have been logical. You're in a bad situation. You need to complain about it, right? The craziest part for me, though, is that not only did they praise Jesus and God and he showed up, but then they had every opportunity to run out the door. They had every opportunity to leave, to go on their way, and they didn't. Not at all. What did they do? They stayed. And because of that, the jailer asked, "How can I be saved?" See, the cool thing about God, and this is point number 5, I'm going to end on this point. The cool thing about God is that He is in control. So if we realize we're not in control, it creates this humbleness in us. We become fearless. Oh, that's amazing. We can control our attitudes, but ultimately, God is in control. When things are not going great, when things are tough, when 2020 hits and 2020 rolls over into 2021, guess what? God is there. He hasn't left you. It may feel like it sometimes, but He's right there. You see, that's the cool thing about God, is that He never leaves our side. His love never ends. It's a love that you don't really understand because you've never seen a love like that before. And that's okay. He'll love you through the hard times. One thing that you have to do, and we talked about this over the last few weeks, is you have to accept it. So to embrace the unknown, to take what 2021 is going to give us, we should understand that the control is in God. And the closer we get to Him, the better we can embrace the unknown. So, what do you think, guys? What do you think? I have handcuffs on my arms. Starting to get sweaty and hurt a little bit. So what are you going to do in 2021? Are you going to be courageous? Are you going to live on purpose? Or are you going to be fearful and stay in the back, right? Because the cool thing is that if we trust in Jesus like a good friend, if we build our relationship with Jesus, He can get us out of 2020 and out of the craziness that it is. You see, we always need those people beside us that can help us out, but we definitely need Jesus because He is in control. So in 2021, I ask you, can Caleb get the handcuffs off? And I also ask you, are you going to embrace the unknown and live on purpose and live fearless so that you don't have to live in these in 2021? I'm glad we didn't lose the keys. So I'm going to pray real quick, guys. But tonight, just remember that God's in control. God, we just thank You for the ability to be able to lift up Your name in a country that is free. God, we thank You for who You are and who Your Son is. God, we thank You that Your Spirit comes and He lives inside of us and He gives us freedom like we've never known. God, we just really understand that 2020, though it was hard, that maybe there were some things that we can take away from it. And God, I thank You that You're teaching me how to embrace the unknown, to live for You, to live on purpose, and to understand that You are in control. Please, tonight, as we go throughout this night, let us focus our attention back on You, because You deserve all the praise and the glory. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
You know what's awesome? Is like doing stuff with some of your best friends and like hanging out. And obviously you guys are here. Luke, most of the time, is one of my best friends. Sometimes it doesn't end up that way. So far, mine has been good, and we've been hanging out a little bit. So we'll see to that extent, kind of thing. So coming together, all this fun stuff. God actually hit me back in like, when was it? September. I sent you a text in September. Monte's had this thing going on for a little while. You guys have seen it on the video. We kind of talked about it a little bit. And it was the group called Rooted. We got together. It was more small group based and that kind of stuff. And then I was kind of out doing my own thing. 2020 started. Kind of like Monte said, we were there. We were at Passion. We were worshiping, and And it was dope. Like, it was so much fun. God, like, grabbed a hold of me. He's like, come on, like, you're going to do something like this. I don't know if you're going to be a missionary. I don't know what you're going to do. And then, like, I was like, okay, cool. Like, I'll apply for Passion real quick. And if you know anything about me, is I do things, like, stupidly, super last minute kind of a thing. And so I did it super last minute. I'm pretty sure they didn't even look at the video. I mean, Noli did an amazing job on it, but it wasn't my favorite either. So I was like, all right, cool, well, I'm not doing that. All right, I'll go. And I had this opportunity, got totally provided doing something I love, and that's working with Savage Race. So I got to travel around the US, having a blast, doing that kind of stuff, working for them. Well, we go out our very first week, and, first 2 weeks, we set everything up, and then it gets canceled. So like literally 2 days before the race, was a Thursday, we had a race on Saturday and Sunday. The day, Thursday was our last day at work, and then we would have Friday off, and then we'd have race day and all that kind of fun stuff. And we got a call about 2 p.m. I just put the last stake in the ground. We went to clean up some stuff just to make the trail look a little bit nicer and all that jazz. And we all got on this call, and it was like, hey guys, thanks for doing all this. We got to shut down. So fast forward another 2 weeks, come back home. COVID's happening pretty well. Florida was a hot spot. I was in Florida, so I kind of had to be careful for the next couple weeks, all that fun stuff. And I was like, all right, well, I'm not doing that. Maybe, I guess I can't really go anywhere. I wanted to go to Africa over the summer. I can't do that now. All right, cool, well, maybe I'll just do my own thing. So that's what I did. And I was just doing my thing, hanging out, all that fun stuff. And then God grabbed a hold of me. I'm a runner, so like, which is weird to say too, because I still don't like running 100%, but it relaxes me when I do it. And in order to train, to get better, you have to train, you have to run. So one day I was actually on a walk in Georgia, and God totally caught me there. I'm also a person, like, I'm stupid and I'll do stupid stuff. I actually went to hang off a bridge. It's funny, Matthew said something earlier, and get a picture doing that, and then like I got lost in the woods, and it was just after raining, and it was like 80-something degrees in Georgia, and I was wearing jeans and like a t-shirt with a long sleeve, and I was like, holy cow, dude. Like, this is terrible. Why am I here? I'm an idiot. I'll just get back or whatever. So I start going back, and I'm gonna flip that before I get more notifications. And God like totally caught me, and like I started singing out loud. And here's the funny thing, I didn't even know I was singing out loud. Like, it just hit me. I don't even know what song I was singing, but I was like, all right, cool, like, God, this is what you got, this is what you got. I shot a text to Monte, I shot a text to a couple other people in my life that I care about, and I was like, all right, let's do this. When we get back, God willing, COVID, maybe things might slow down, and we'll get it. So fast forward, whatever. That's kind of how Monte and I kind of started talking about this. Now Monte and I hanging out, talking about what we're going to do tonight, how it's going to look. Talking Nate, Robert, Luke, all those guys and that kind of fun stuff. And Monte's like, oh, I think I'm going to talk about, 2020 was hard, and you know what was really hard? Paul and Silas got thrown in jail, and I'm going to do this thing handcuffs. And I was like, that's awesome. Like, you should totally do that. I'm going to try not to like whisper into your ear as I'm putting the handcuffs on, or like make a bunch of jokes while we're up there. But he's like, yeah, and like, even though the hard times, like, they still worship God, and they still got out of it. God got them out of it. And I was like, cool, I'm going to do mine on the Old Testament, and it's going to be where people mess up and fail. And I was like, well, maybe that's God telling me that, hey, you're pretty familiar in this thing. Like, you wandered for a little while, you've screwed up a lot. You're pretty familiar with that, so why don't you go ahead and talk about that? So tonight we're actually going to open up into Numbers chapter 13, and we'll get into the verses here in a minute. But I also love, like, I'm a storyteller. Like Monte said, I love adventures. What comes along with adventures? Stories come along with adventures, right? So, a little bit of backstory. Most of us probably know we got Abraham, and God goes to Abraham and says, hey, I'm going to make you a great nation. Like, you're going to have so many descendants and all this, and like, you're going to be famous. And Abraham doesn't even have any kids yet. So God provides a kid for him. He almost kills him, but then God provides a way out so he doesn't kill him, right? And then fast forward down the line a little bit, we get to Joseph, right? And Joseph is one of my, I want to say favorite characters, but favorite people, really. In the Bible, he's his dad's favorite. He gets thrown into a pit by his brothers because they get jealous. He gets sold into slavery. He gets lied about. Once everything starts going great again, then he gets lied about, then he gets thrown into prison. And then when he finally gets out, or he finally thinks he's about to get out from the dreams and everything, telling people dreams, the guy goes back to the palace, totally forgets about him. And finally God remembers him, delivers him back. We know that story. And God keeps his promise, and through them, he makes Israel into a great nation. So Israel is like growing like crazy. They're here in Egypt. Down the line a little bit, a new Pharaoh takes over. The Pharaoh's these people are going to take us out. He was listening to what I call like the devil's whispers, right? And I have heard them several times, so I can imagine what it feels like to Pharaoh not even knowing God. And he goes in and he decides to take over, capture, and they're gonna be slaves, right? All that fun stuff. Man, you guys are a tough crowd. It's terrible. But God still had promised Abraham. He delivered on that. He started making it super well known, and then just kids after kids after kids after people after people, and then finally, he goes down. They're in slavery for about 400 years. And then he brings up a guy named Moses, right? And Moses was a baby. There were so many Israelites that Pharaoh was like, hey, go ahead and kill all the baby boys. So his mom hides him for as long as he can, and then sends him in the river, and he actually makes it down to... Anybody know? There you go. Pharaoh's house, Pharaoh's daughter. And she comes up, and she raises him. So for the next 40 years, he's raised in the palace. And he's in there, he's living it up until he messes up. And, well, not messes up, he actually saves somebody and he kills an Egyptian. So then for the next 40 years, he's gone. So my dude's 80 years old now, right? I can't imagine, I don't even know if I'm gonna live to 80, but I can imagine leading a group of people or being a farmer or shepherd for 40 years, and then coming back. I'm sorry, Sabrina was laughing. And I lost my spot, but that's okay. You're good. But anyway, yeah, so story time. God's raising them up, raising up Moses. Moses tries everything in the book. It's I gotta get out of here. I don't want to do this, God. I'm not a good talker. Don't send me. It's gonna be a mess if you send me. And God's nah, here, your brother Aaron's coming. He'll actually talk for you. You're gonna perform the miracles. And alongside with him. So they come, Moses, 10 plagues come, God shows how powerful it is. What I think is really cool, when you dive deep into the story, the 10 things that God does, he's also mocking the Egyptians' gods. So the Egyptians' gods were a god of locusts, all this kind of stuff. And God's actually mocking them by the miracles that he's doing, which I found really interesting when we dived down into it. And then he brings them out. Pharaoh's finally, get out of here. After God kills all the firstborns, get out, we don't want you. So they're going, they're headed, they're up here, they're at the sea, they're chilling, and get ready to pass. And then Pharaoh's what are we thinking? That's all of our supplies, that's where all of our money comes from, kind of a thing, if they lived by that back in the day. This is all of our workers that are going. And so he sends his army out to get him. He's bring him back, and we made a mistake. Excuse me. Well, God steps in, God goes, here, Moses, split this water. So Moses puts his staff out, holds it up, and then God just opens the sea. And it's insane. And I hear this joke about kind of a thing the water wasn't that deep anyway, right? And so as they get to the other side, and God decides to close the water in. And the joke that goes on is well, the water's not even that deep anyway. It's 4 deep. And I was well, regardless, whether it be 4 feet or 30 feet, how much funnier is it that God would have killed a bunch of people in 40, not that he would have killed a bunch of people, but he wiped a bunch of people out in 4 feet of water, then it would have been, it doesn't matter, God still did it. And so there they are, they don't have to worry, they're let go, they're headed to the promised land, and all they have to do is trust and follow God. And then they mess up. Not just once, but several times. And they put God to the test, and God's still like, no, like I love you, I'm still going to deliver you. Yes, there's going to be consequences, but you need to remember who got you here. Like, you have to remember who split the sea. It's not you guys that split the sea. I don't see anybody else out there trying to split the sea. Like, I was the one that delivered you out of there. But they keep messing up, and finally we got up to Numbers chapter 13, and we'll actually read this here. They get up to the edge of the promised land, and we will start in verse 17, after all of the names that I probably cannot pronounce. We'll start here. When Moses sent them to explore the land of Canaan, he said, "Go up to the Negev and on the hill country. See what the land is like and whether the people who live there are strong or weak. Few or many, what kind of land do they live in? Is it good or is it bad? What kind of towns do they live in? Are they unwalled or fortified? How is the soil? Is it fertile or poor? Are there trees in it or not? Do your best to bring back some of the fruits of the land." And it was the season for the ripe grapes. So they went up and explored the land from the desert of Zin as far as Rehob toward Lebo Hamath. They went through the Negev and came to Hebron, where the Ahiman, Sheshai, and Talmai are descendants of Anak lived, so big people. Hebron had built 7 years before Zion in Egypt. When they reached the valley of Eshcol, they cut off the branch bearing a single cluster of grapes. 2 of them carried a pole between them, along with some pomegranates and figs. The place was called the Valley of Eshcol, because of the cluster of grapes that the Israelites cut off there. At the end of 40 days, they returned from exploring the land. And here's the report. They came back to Moses and Aaron with the Israelite community at Kadesh in the desert of Paran. They reported them into the assembly and showed the fruit of the land. Then Moses gave this account. To Moses they gave this account. "We went to the land at which you had sent us, and it does flow with milk and honey. Here is the fruit, but the people who live there are powerful. The cities are fortified and very large. We even saw the descendants of Anak there. The Amalekites lived in the Negev, the Hittites, Jebusites, and Amorites in the hill country, and the Canaanites lived near the sea along the Jordan." Then Caleb silenced the people before Moses and said, "We should go and we should take possession of the land, for certainly we can do it." But the men who had gone up with him said, "We can't attack those people. They are stronger than we are." And they spread among the Israelites a bad report about the land. And they had explored, they said, "The land we explored devours those living in it. And all the people we saw there are of great size. We saw the Nephilim there, the descendants of Anak that came from the Nephilim, giants. We seemed like grasshoppers in our own eyes, and we looked the same to them." I love the story because it's Caleb and Joshua. My name just happens to be Caleb. And the next one is like here's all this stuff that's going on. Like, they're super excited. Yes, they disobeyed. God still is keeping his promise to them. He still delivered them to the promised land. They're literally on the edge of the promised land. God says, all right, Moses says, hey, let's go check it out. Go make sure it's actually what it is. And they're like, dude, it's like, I don't know what flowing like milk and honey is, but I've seen Willy Wonka, and I wouldn't mind like a chocolate factory kind of around, like a river flowing and all that jazz. That'd be so cool. And I can't imagine like you get there, you go, and like just being one of the 12 spies, and you get there and you're like, oh, dude, like this place is sick, the fruit is dope, like this is amazing. God was not lying when he told us this. But here's the thing, like, to the others, here's the thing, like, there's no way we can do this. And in my mind, I'm like, dude, like God just split the ocean. He performed these 10 other miracles. Like you saw him, or you didn't see him, you saw a cloud up on the mountain when Moses went up there to get the 10 Commandments. Like you've seen all these wonders, as well as not only that, the whole time you've been traveling, like he's been feeding you. Like where this food's just appearing out of nowhere kind of a thing. And how can you not think that these people, whether it be giants or not, like God's not going to be with you? But then I think back into my life, and we know that as they are going, they spread about the report, everybody starts freaking out, and they aren't allowed into the promised land. And God actually becomes angry, and Moses has to go and plead with God not to wipe everybody out. And God goes, all right, well, here's the thing. Anybody over the age of 20, so I'd be donezo, but my name is Caleb, or any of my friends or anything like that, like, they have to die. Like, you guys need to go in to the desert, and you guys are going to wander there. That's your punishment. But anybody under, I'm still going to deliver them as long as they remain in me and they keep me above everything else and don't worry and all that stuff. But I think, like, too, like, even though God does so many things, and in my life personally, like the jobs that he's given me, like he just provides them. It's like I'll go in, and my parents joke about this all the time, and maybe it's because I switch jobs so much too. But they're like, anytime Caleb goes in, like he gets a job. And I was like, all right, cool, like, that's pretty cool. I'm doing this thing that not many other people do. I get to go, and I get to hang out, and I get to train and do all this fun stuff. But at the same time, like, I think, wow, I'm so great, like, man, maybe I am a good competitor, or maybe I am a good talker, not speaker, that's for sure. But like maybe I could work that way. And then I think like, no, like God's the one who provided for me, but so many times I'm getting lost. And there's been so many different times in my life in the past, which many of you probably know, like there are times that I got lost, and there are times that, you know, I didn't get into passion, or I didn't get into something like that. So like, God's like, hey, like, hold off. Like, I still have this promise for you, but I get so caught up in it. And finally, when I'm like, all right, cool, I'm going, God's got me. Like, I'm going for it. All right, if this is what you want from me, if this is the path you got me on, I'm going to go. You want me to be a missionary in Africa? Cool, let's be a missionary in Africa. You want me to start something up here with Monte? Cool, let's start something up here. And then the devil starts whispering. And I go into that wandering. My mind starts racing. And literally just the other day, I can't tell you, Monte even told me the other day, he's like, man, you like adventure. You like to move around. Monte loves it too. Robert loves it. Yeah. I'm worried that you're going to get either bored or something's going to happen and you're going to leave. And literally the day before, I was thinking, God, what do you have for me? Like, I don't know if this is going to happen. Like, people say they're going to come. Most of the time people don't show up. Or, hey, like, you did give me this opportunity. You did bless me with this side of things. What if I stuck with that? Or what if I trained and I did what I feel like it could be calling me to do? Maybe I'd be the Tim Tebow of obstacle racing. I wouldn't be nearly as good as Tim Tebow, but like that'd be pretty cool. And like all these things started in my mind, and I was like, all right, well, I could move to Cali right now. I have some friends up there. I go live with them and then just train because the weather right there is great, and I hate the cold. So I was like, okay, maybe I'll go move with Robert for a couple months up to Hawaii. And Monte's like, just don't do it. So literally, as I was thinking those things, Monte's like, hey, I'm worried this is what you're gonna do. So you could take that as a whatever, where you could say like, Monte's God kind of thing, right? But God's using Monte in order to keep me here. Who knows why, for sure. But as well as like sometimes like I'll think like, okay, well, God put this in my heart or in my head, like it's so big and I feel like a grasshopper. Like I literally to like anything, or I feel like it's too big, like I can't handle it, or it won't happen, or I get too far ahead of myself and then I just give up and I stop. And a lot of times that is the devil whispering, and that is me wondering, my mind going. But I feel like there is a reason God puts those things on our hearts or on our minds, and the big things that he puts, and there is a reason he puts big things that we can't handle on our heart. Just the day before we even got here, did I tell you guys I'm a last minute person? I think we mentioned that. Yeah, so this thing, if you guys even look at my notes, like I didn't even finish my notes. I had to like finish writing them, which I can't even read my own handwriting half the time. But like I didn't have anything finished. I was like, okay, people are canceling, they said they're gonna be here, all that, and that's not their fault. I know things come up, all that kind of stuff, but like that devil's just using that in my mind of, hey, like, and he just gets my mind wandering. It's like, hey, like, you're looking at these people were gonna come in the first place, like, you think that anything you have to say is gonna be worth anything? Like, do you know what you've done in the past? Like, why would anything that you have hold up? Or you know the thoughts that you're gonna have later on, like, what's the point? Like, you're gonna be tempted anyway, you're gonna give in, so what's the point? Like, just quit, just go on. And it might have crossed my mind, hey, I just take a trip up to Cali real quick. Well, my buddy John was in town, and go with him, and then Monte can do this all by himself. Or it was, Monte said, hey, Chrissy's pretty pregnant right now, so we're praying that she doesn't have a baby, but you might be on your own on this. I'm like, oh no. I'm like, God, please. And immediately right there, I was like, God, please don't let them have a baby. I'm like, hold on, either have it now so we can be here, or don't have it for a little while. Hopefully, Chrissy's not in a ton of pain and all that good fun stuff. But he had me thinking about that, and then I was like, no, like whatever happens, like it's gonna be good. Like God use these people. Nate's actually been a really big help to me too, whether he knows it or not. But there you go, bud. And a positive influence. And then God also was like, I was like, okay, like we're gonna do this. Here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go home. My dad just talked about this. I'm gonna go talk to him. I'm gonna get some of my notes and steal them from him. And then I'm also kind of from a starting point. And then I'll also be able to kind of talk it over with him and my mom, and then I'll figure it out, and at least usually in the conversation too. And as I was driving home, I get a call. And it was Elijah. And Elijah's like super chill and like super calm if you guys know who Elijah is. So Elijah goes, hey bud, Dad's having a seizure or a stroke. I was like, what? He's like, Dad's having like a seizure or a stroke. And I was like, he's having a stroke? And he's like, yeah, he's not really conscious right now. I was like, all right, is someone calling 911? And he's like, yeah, I'll send this. I was like, all right, cool. So, and this was yesterday. So I was like, still haven't had my notes finished. I finally I got home, I pulled out luckily I dropped a stick, so I kicked it in and felt really cool as my engine was roaring, but also super worried at the same time. So I got home, I whipped it over into Yui and got inside, and Dad's just sitting there and he's like that. And it was after the fact, they were all doing a really good job. I also was on the phone with people. Noli was sitting there keeping him awake, making sure he was good. Mom came off her freak out level a little bit because he had woken up a little bit and he was kind of responsive. And the paramedics come and hang out and all that, and I'm like, what is going on? Like, you ever have those moments? Like, it was definitely in the car that I was just like, ah! like literally, I was like, why in the world is this happening? There we go. I know I covered the mic that one. Well, and maybe said some choice words. And finally, I got home, and as it was going, I was like, how in the world am I supposed to finish a talk about this, a sermon or whatever you want to call it? And it took me a little while, and finally God, I feel not like the puppet masseteer, but he grabbed me, picked me up, and carried me over real quick, and said, hey, your mind's wandering. You know you're talking about the desert, right? When they were wandering in the desert, that's what you're doing right now. Your mind is there, whether it be with that or with something else. And he's he grabbed a hold of me, picked me up, and he said, I know stuff can suck, but it's going to be okay. I know it doesn't make sense. Don't worry. Keep your head up. I know you don't know what to do. I have you. I know you don't know where to go or turn, but I'm here. And I know you're scared or worried, but I'm with you. And I was Like finally it felt like my heart rate was going down, my blood pressure was going down a little bit. I'm not usually an angry person, but like it was just something that was like, oh, like, come on, devil, like I wish I could fight you, but it's probably a good thing I'm not because I got my butt kicked. But yeah, that was going on. And finally, God got me, and he's like, okay, well, did you see what I brought everybody else through? You see what I brought the Israelites through? Even after they kept messing up, and I know you messed up a lot, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to deliver to you and to the promise that I have for you, or the promise that I have for anybody that does follow me. Did you see what happened to Joseph? And did you see me pull Joseph out of the pit, pull Joseph out of prison, pull Paul and Silas out of prison, and deliver them? And did you see what happened to Moses? Like everybody was grumbling and complaining about Moses, and there were even times where Moses was grumbling and complaining. But I still stayed with him, and I still delivered, and they got into the promised land, right? So God's got his promise. I think back to, and Monte kind of said this earlier, like 2020. Like we were sitting there, we were worshiping. It was awesome, literally across. I looked across it. They had a countdown going as it hit midnight, and everybody worship music was playing. I looked around, and like there's so many people, dude, with just their hands in the air or just like eyes closed, and they're just praising and worshiping. They don't even know the clock is striking midnight, and I was like, oh my gosh, like this is all like that high that you get. I went to big stuff. I went to camps. I had a blast, and there was nothing compared to this night. And like I've also been to someone that I've been other places on New Year's Eve that I definitely wasn't worshiping God, and like the comparison, I was like, God, if this is a little glimpse of heaven, this is how I want to feel all the time. Like, this is amazing. I don't know what else you have planned, but this is amazing. And then we know kind of as it goes on, like COVID happens, all this other stuff happens. I don't know if you guys watch the news, but there's a lot of stuff that goes on in the news. And I feel like God was on the move back then. I believe God's on the move now. I feel like God was on the move in 2020. And I got this, totally stole this one from my mom. But, thanks. But when God's on the move, here on earth, a big movement by God means a desperate response from the enemy. So the enemy's going to do whatever he can to throw that off. There were so many people, man, they were ready to go out. Like, it was like I was fired up. I was like, man, I'm going to Africa. Like, it was great. And then some other people that, hey, maybe they're going somewhere else. So we're like, hey, I'm going to go change my school. Like, I'm going to go change the college. I'm going to go change my church, like, my community. I don't know what it is, but, like, people were fired up that week. And so very fast, the enemy started whispering, and it just died out. And it hit me really hard. And finally I was like, okay, God, well, like, what do you want me to do now? There's so much noise going on. There's so much noise in my life. Like, I like to pack I like adventure. I also like to pack my schedule, and I know some of you guys are like that too. And I can't hear his voice. And I can hear the enemy's whisper louder because my mind is in the desert, and I am wondering, and I'm not holding on to his promises. He says, hey, I already made a way for them. I've got a way for you. You just got to stick with it. So God is making the way. We just have to follow. That's all really. But 2021's not over. 2021 looks like it's starting to follow 2020 a little bit. I'm kind of already getting sick and tired of saying 2021 over the past couple of days. And I don't think God was done in 2020. And I don't think God's done in 2021. I think there's a lot of exciting things that he's actually got. We just have to remember, like, don't let your mind wander. Don't listen to the enemy's whispers. Let God's whisper be louder than the enemy's until that's the only thing you hear. Dear God, thank you so much for today. Thank you so much for my family and my friends, God, and your family. Honestly, everyone that is here, and everyone that couldn't make it, God. And thank you so much for your promise, that your promises hold fast, God, that they stay true whatever we're going through in life, God. And thank you so much that I do have people around me that will keep my head on straight and keep me focused on you, God, and that you provide the way, that we can be here just to worship in the midst of everything going on, God. And that your hand is here, and your hand is over in Africa, God, and over in Europe and Asia and all across the world, God, and China and Japan, God, and at the White House and everywhere, God. We don't want you to lift your hand, God. We want you to keep your hand on us, God. Just help us know that your hand is more powerful and your voice, in the end, is louder than the enemy's voice. And help me remember that, God, because your plans aren't canceled. Just help us to love you. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. And I'm excited about what God's got for this group and in the future. Anything that is to go, because yes, his plans aren't canceled. We just have to look at that, and there will be a day where we are just in awe and wonder and just marveling at God. And he's making a way for us to be there. We just have to follow that way. And with that, we're going to worship.
Amen.
Well, as we continue to do another set of worship tonight, I just want to invite you guys all to stand together with us. And we're just going to sing that Jesus is the way maker, that he's a miracle worker. So come on, if you know that song, let's just sing that tonight.
Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keep, light in the darkness, my God, that is who you are. You are waymaker, miracle worker, promise keep, light in the darkness, my God, that is who you are. Oh, that is who you are. That is who you are. That is who you are. That is who you are.
Let's raise our hands to Christ. Because even when He's working, come on, even when we can't see that He's still working, can we all, seriously, let's take a step of faith right now tonight. Come on, raise our hands. Just raise our hands and surrender. This is a sign of surrender. Because we need Jesus. We need Jesus tonight. Come on, so even when I don't see it, you're working. Even when I don't feel it, you're working. You never stop working. You never stop working. 'Cause even when I don't see it, you're working. Even when I don't feel it, you're working.
When I've come with my agenda, I'm sorry. And I forgot you were enough. Take me back to where we started. I open up my heart to you. I'm caught up in your presence. I just wanna sit here at your feet. I'm caught up in this holy moment, and I never wanna leave. Oh, I'm not here for blessings, 'cause Jesus, you don't owe me anything. More than anything that you can do, I just want you. makes the giants fall. You bring down the walls of Jericho. You're the God who gives the miracle. We believe. You're the God who parts the ocean wide, just to bring us closer to your side. You're the God who brings the dead to life. We believe. Oh, we believe. God, how great you are, and great things you have done. For everything we've seen, oh, there is more to come. In every victory, every battle won. For everything we've seen, oh, there is more to come. Come on, be confident, be confident. We are confident in all your ways, because we know you never make mistakes. God, you fill us with a greater faith. We believe, oh, we believe. And God, how great you are, and great things you have done. For everything we've seen, oh, there is more to come. Every victory, every battle won. For everything we've seen, oh, there is more to come. All of our hope in, and all of our trust in, all of our future in the God who never fails. All of our faith in, and all of our strength in, all of our future in the God who never fails. All of our hope in, all of our trust in, and all of our future in the God who never fails. All of our faith in, and all of our strength in, all of our future in the God who never fails. Heaven meant to meet us, Father, Son, and Spirit. Oh, praise, oh, praise. God and man together, one with us forevermore. Every breath it is a gift, every moment is a treasure. My past and my regrets, my present and my future. Every table is a feast, every heartbeat is an altar. Every step a mystery, I'm walking with the author. So I fix my eyes upon you. I fix my eyes upon you.